Welcome to my 10th video for the second chapter of our project making an action RPG in Unity. And this video is going to cover making a bar appear over the head of the player to indicate the charge level of the fireball, because right now you have no idea what level fireball you're about to shoot. And I kind of want to give the player an indicator to know where they're at with their power. And so this is a pretty interesting endeavor, and this video is going to cover both the coding side of it and the Unity UI side of it. So I guess let's begin. First, let's start building the UI component that's going to be this, the charge bar that's going to be over our player's head. And so that's going to take us to the textures UI folder, to this white bar 100x80. And that's actually a typo. And I'm going to rename it to 100x10 just because it bothers me. It's 100 pixels wide by 10 pixels tall. And not much I need to change on here. So let's go to our canvas, and we're going to add a game object UI image. This is going to be called charge bar back. So kind of like what we did before. And the image I'm going to attach to it is this white bar 100x10. You can see from the stretching it looks really horrible right now, so we want to drop the height to 100. And that's up to you. That is kind of big compared to the rest of the player. I do think a width of 80 looks good. And you can even drop it maybe even more to like 60 or 50. So that is up to your aesthetic goals. I'm going to try 80 and see how that looks. All right, nothing else really to have to change here, except for maybe, well, image type can stay as simple, because this is the background of it. Yeah, we'll keep it as simple. Let's change the color though, so that it's black. All right, then we're going to, on top of this, we're going to create another UI element image called charge bar, and I'm going to make that a child of charge bar back. So this same deal, it needs to be the same width, so I was going with 80 by 10, and I'm going to attach this graphic to it. And then this one does need to switch from image type simple to filled, and we want to switch it to horizontal. And so what that's going to do is give us this type of effect. And we're going to change the color inside the code, so it's not going to be black and white, but I'm going to leave it black and white here, because all we've got to do is just, swap it depending on what color bar we want this to be. We can just change the tint of it, and it's going to be whatever color we need it to be. All right, so we've got the bar basically set up, and at this point, we can take this, and I do want to turn that into a prefab. Kind of feel like it should be a core prefab. So I'm going to take this charge bar back and bring it into the core section. Then I am going to delete it out of the canvas so that this canvas prefab doesn't think that this charge bar needs to be part of it. And so we can actually open this up, and can't really see it very well here, but we will want to edit it in the prefab builder as we make our changes to it. So that's all the user interface stuff we have to do to it. Next up is to actually begin writing the script for it, to manage it. And so that's going to be handled. We're going to need to go to our scripts folder, and I'm going to put that inside of core. Make a C# script called charge bar. And I'm going to double click charge bar. So we get pulled up inside of here. So charge bar, we do need a few variables. So we need the rectangle transform. That's kind of like almost a game object, but just the transform of something, of the bar back. we need the rectangle transform specifically because we are going to be moving it around so that it follows the player. Then we need the bar front. Technically, we could have used just image for this, but I just want to be consistent. Then we need the rectangle transform of the target canvas that we want to end up in. So this is so that it will go to the... So we don't have to make a new canvas each time. We can actually just aim it at the existing UI canvas that's on there. And the game object, objects to follow. And I guess to prevent the developers from getting confused, we can make these two private. Those don't actually need to be set, because we're going to set those through code. And then one other variable, which probably should be public, and that is a position correction. And this is going to refer to how much should it modify where should it position itself. So what this is doing is basically placing this 0.75 units above the player. And so that way it's going to kind of be above our head. So that you might need to change these numbers. That's why this is a public variable. I mean, we can even pull the tooltip thing. All right. Okay, so we've got our variables set up. Tentatively don't have anything in the start. You could possibly add code. Like if you wanted it to always follow the player, you can always just do object to follow equals game object dots find game object with tag. And so you could have it locate the player, but for the sake of flexibility, I'm not going to do that, so that if you wanted it to follow an enemy, maybe to indicate like a boss attack is charging up or something, you could very easily just, when you spawn this, just have the boss set it to be the object to follow. Okay, let's build a method here called public void setup. It's going to take a game object of the target, of what thing to follow, and a rect transform of the canvas, so it knows what canvas to link itself to. So object to follow is going to be set equal to target, and target canvas is going to be set equal to canvas. So this method to follow the target, and it basically shows it which canvas to attach itself to. Alright. Now some other useful methods it's going to need is a method to change colors. And that way we can, when we create the bar, determine what color it wants to use. And so we'll set the bar back dot get components image. Oops. We need to add image as a using, so we need to go up to using Unity Engine .ui, and that will allow us the use of image. So bar back get component image dot color. This is the background bar, so we're going to set it to background, and we're going to do the same thing for the foreground bar. So bar front is going to be set to the foreground color. Another method called change fill. And we're just going to take in the ratio here. We could make it so that you could pass in the max and the min, and we can just divide it here. And we could make an overloaded version of the method where we did that too. So the change fill method is going to access the bar front. Since that's the one with the slider to change how filled it is, get component image dot fill amount, and we're going to set that equal to ratio. We can overload it if we want. And we could also do the math in an overloaded version of this. So the user would have some flexibility. They can actually just pass the ratio, or they could pass the current value and the max value, and we'll figure it out inside of this. And the last method we need is the method to follow the player. And so this is going to, well, follow the target, I guess. So this will be private void reposition bar. And this has a little bit of weird number crunching to it. And we're basically kind of figuring out where on the camera this, because the canvas for the UI is not the same X and Y coordinate system as the game world is. So we're basically converting the game world position into a UI position. And so there's a little bit of math behind all this. So we're accessing the main camera, and we're going to convert world to viewport. And that's going to be the object to follows position. So we calculate kind of the desired position. Then we convert that into and this is the probably nastier of the two. So it's a vector 2. So this converts it into a canvas thing. I guess we can just do this over multiple lines, but no, we'll just do it here. So viewport position X times the target canvas dot size delta dot X minus the target canvas dot size delta dot X times 0.5, comma, and then all this but for Y. Yeah, let's break this up over multiple lines. So here, it's a little bit easier to read. And now it's kind of presented over two different lines just for readability's sake. And we set the anchored position of the bar back to this thing that we just calculated. And because the foreground bar is a child of this, it will, follow it around. So kind of a bunch of number crunching here. If you need to pause the video to grab this, I'm about to add something to the update part, and then we'll be done with this script. So running up here to update, I just need to call reposition bar. And then this is done. Could be useful stuff here if you ever need to convert game world position to a canvas position. That's other than like using the mouse. So we hit save, and this is all good. Now we can return back to Unity, and we've got to go into the prefab for my charge bar, and I'm going to attach this script onto this charge bar back thing, and I'm going to need to link. So notice I am inside of my prefab. This is actually pretty important that I've double clicked my prefab. I want to link the charge bar back to the back and the charge bar front to the front. And so this is all set up now. This prefab is ready to be spawned and ready to do its thing. Okay, so we'll back out of that. And unfortunately, we really can't test it too terribly much right now because we don't have a reliable way to spawn it. So let's jump to the player. Find the player. And we want to open the player script. So let's add a new like set of things here for the charge bar. We need to make a game object for the charge bar prefab. We need, oops, yeah, this is going to need to be public. Then we're going to create a private variable to keep track of the actual charge bar instance. So like when we instantiate it, we're going to keep it here. And then a private variable to track the canvas. Now, we could link this manually to our player because we would actually know each scene where that canvas would be. And so this could afford to be public, and I'll show you how we can kind of handle that, and we'll handle it both ways. There's a little tooltip there to remind us that we need to set this UI canvas to the scenes prefab. So inside of start, let's just do a little bit of, kind of safety precautions here. Let's go and attempt to find the canvas. Since it is called canvas, this should locate it and attach it. So even if we failed to configure it here, we are still going to try to grab a reference to it there. And the charge bar is going to get most of its attention inside of the actual spawning the attack. So we need to go down to my update ranged attack, and we're going to spawn it when we first press a button. So let's add some section here. Charge, it's called charge bar create the bar. So charge bar is the name of the variable that we're going to use to keep track of it. So we're just going to instantiate a charge bar prefab right there. Then we're going to run the charge bar, the get component, charge bar, and we're going to run that command called setup, and that's where we pass in the player, and then we pass in the UI canvas, and it does specifically want the rectangle transform of that. Oops. Ooh, I think we also need to get some, I was going to set the colors too, so we need to go back up here real quick. And let's add a public color array called ranged charge bar ranged colors. And I'm going to kind of pick some initial colors here. We're going to do black, color.black. Then we're going to do color.red. Then we need an orange, and unfortunately orange isn't one of the built-in colors. It's kind of annoying. So I've got to declare it using the RGB values of orange. And then I want yellow. So these are the initial colors of the charge bar. So the background is black, then there's red, then there's orange, and then there's yellow to represent each power level of the fireball. So going back to here, I want to set the colors. Charge bar, get component. Get the charge bar. And there's a command called change colors, and we want to set it to, if we recall, the first one is the foreground, then the second one's the background. So when we first create it, we want a black background, but a yellow, or I'm sorry, a red foreground, because that's going to be our first rank of charge. So we'll call this charge bar. What do we call that variable? Change bar. Charge bar ranged colors. So charge bar ranged colors, ranged charge level +1, which is effectively 0. I mean, we could have just literally put a 0 right here. Oh, I'm sorry, a 1 right here. And then we're going to use range charge bar colors, charge bar level, which could have been 0. Charge bar dot transform set parent, and we're going to set the parent to the canvas. So when we spawn it, instead of being child to the player, we're going to give it to the canvas. Instead of the player. So this will actually create my bar. Could also be worth making sure that we set it to 0. So get component, charge bar, dot change fill to 0. So we've created the bar. And that actually, well, I guess we'll play with that in a little bit. So now we've got to actually have it fill up as I'm charging. So right here is where we've started adding charge to my thing. So we want to update the fill of the charge bar here. So charge bar dot get component, charge bar, change fill, and we can send in, we can use the two ones, so the ranged charge time, comma, ranged time goal for the given level. So that way it will update for that. Then when our range charge ranks up, we're going to also need to update the bar as well. So we're going to update the colors to be the next level of the bar. So now normally you can just do this in a single line, but I am going to handle it for, well, now let's do it one line here. If the range charge level, so if the new level that we've got is now equal to the max level, And if you recall, we found the max level over here. If range charge level is equal to ranged time goal dot length. So if we're max level, we want to set the charge bar dot get component charge bar dot change colors. We want to set them to the highest tier of the colors in the array. So that's going to just be ranged charge bar colors, ranged charge level, and that's what we're going to use for both of them. And now this is fine here because if kind of unlike the other array, we actually have 4 things in this array. So if we're a level 3 charge, this is index 0 for black, index 1 for red, index 2 for orange, index 3 for yellow. So if I'm a charge level 3, I just want the bar to be yellow and not even appear like it's going up in power. So going back to here, otherwise, we change the color of this to be the foreground is going to be the next level you're trying to reach. So it'll be the range charge level plus 1. So if you're currently level 0, the foreground is going to be orange. I'm sorry, red. The next color in that series. And then we'll reset the charge bar back to 0. Charge bar dot get components. Charge bar dot change fill. And we're just going to drop a 0 in there because we want to go back to 0. Now we've got to destroy the bar. So whenever we release my attack, I want to get rid of my charging bar. But I want to get rid of it regardless if I've actually successfully attacked. So up here, when I release the key, we're going to destroy the bar, and it's just going to be destroy charge bar. And so that will get rid of the bar. Bearing in mind, too, we're going to also need to remember to put this inside of any time the player gets hit. We're going to have to get rid of that bar. So that's something we'll catch eventually. All right, so we'll hit save. And now we should be, assuming we've done all this correctly, we should be getting the bar to appear and follow us around. Let's go to the player prefab and make sure we attach this charge bar prefab. And the UI canvas doesn't need linked because it should find it. And then we can make sure that it's got the colors set, and it does. Oops. Well, the bar was right. We didn't position it right, though. So something might be being calculated wrong there. Let's see. And I don't think it's going to matter, but we can attempt to attach the canvas here. I don't think that will matter. But notice I did that from the world player, not the actual prefab one. Yeah. But regardless, I mean, we got to fix that little problem down there. But we can see that the colors are working correctly. It's filling in, and then it stops filling once we reach that highest power level. So the only problem is there might be a mistake in its positioning. And that's totally possible. Yeah, I copied and pasted this and I forgot to change these to Y values. So update this second row here of the charge bar to be Y values. And now it is correctly following my player's head. You can even see it is moving, like when the player kind of slides a little bit from the movement, it is following the player. And it is indicating what level of charge we have. And notice it's not charging because I don't have enough mana to achieve the next rank of a fireball. And if I don't have enough mana, it just doesn't even appear. And there's one little feature I want to kind of throw on here, is give it a little bit of a cooldown. So I want it to also double as a pop-up cooldown tracker, so that when I shoot my fireball, it's going to then indicate how much time I have left until I can attack again. So it's just a really fast one at that point. So that's going to be inside of here if I successfully attack. So this bar is going to represent like a magic cooldown thing. And honestly, instead of typing all this again, I am just going to steal this part right here, since I don't need all that. I don't want to type all that again. So we're going to instantiate the charge bar prefab. We're going to set up what to follow in the canvas. The colors now. Well, I didn't make a color set for this, so let's just do with color.blue as the foreground and color.black as the background. So this is indicating a cooldown. And we're going to start it at 1 because it's going to count down until I'm ready to use it. And then I'm going to take this, giving it to the parent. Almost probably could have turned this into a separate method, honestly. A separate method called spawn charge bar. Okay, so then that spawns a new charge bar for the magical cooldown, essentially linking it to this attack cooldown ticker. So the only issue that I foresee is we might need to track the max of this. So let's go up and add. This is charge bar stuff, so we'll add it here. A private float for attack cooldown ticker max. And we'll initialize it to be 1 just so it has a value to start with. But whenever we attack, so when I spawn this, let's just set attack cooldown ticker max to the ranged attack cooldown. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. Because when I actually adjust the cooldown, I don't know which attack the player just made, if I made a ranged attack or a melee attack. So that's why I created that variable. Then let's jump to update cooldowns. And so as my attack cooldown ticker begins to ready, let's add some stuff for the charge bar. So if charge bar is not equal to null, so basically we've instantiated some kind of charge bar. Charge bar dot get components charge bar dot change fill, and it'll be attack cooldown ticker, comma, attack cooldown ticker max. So that way the bar represents whatever attack I just made. So you could go and add this to appear for melee attacks too. So you have a little bar above the player's head to indicate a melee attack having happened. And if the attack cooldown ticker reaches 0 and charge bar is not equal to null, then we will destroy the charge bar. And so now this will serve as a cooldown indicator for when the player is after the player attacks. So we hit play, and we can charge this up, and when we shoot, we get this little bar to indicate when I can start attacking again. You could choose to, if you wanted to, add that for the melee swing, and so I'll leave that to you if you want to kind of copy that general principle for indicating it. But I think from a mana standpoint, it does kind of make sense to give it that if there's a time that I'm not allowed to cast. So now the player has a lot more visual feedback to how this fireball is going to work. And so that's where we're going to conclude this entire chapter. So we've finished with the player attacks. Early in the next series, we are going to have to kind of take care of the player's attacks hitting an enemy. But what's going to be convenient about that is we're just going to set up a parent script for enemies, so we only ever have to code it once. So it'll only be a one and done for no matter how many enemies we add. And I believe this charge bar should work on these other screens too, because it is finding the canvas. So even though I didn't attach it to this player from this map, it's still going to find it using code. And so now we have all of my attacks ready to fight a horde of challenging enemies. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the third lesson, enemies.